Okay, hi everybody, and welcome to this is the second of these conversations with a pleasure alchemist, and I'm very excited that accompanying this second issue of the Pleasure Alchemist magazine, where we're looking at kink's relationship with power, presence, and play, and how that impacts our lives, not just maybe in the bedroom or with a partner or partners, but also how that impacts your day to day life, how that might impact you being the leader of your business, how that might impact your bank account, your friendships, your sense of place in the community that you're in, and also in the world as well. Particularly as we know, the world being as it is, I am so all about pleasure as activism, aliveness, erotic aliveness as activism. I think the more people that are woken up and living from this pleasure place, I think it's not only good for ourselves biologically and kind of our well-being in many, many ways. There's a lot of like studies around this, but also I think the more people that are living alive just impacts outwards like a pebble being thrown into a pool. And that's surely has got to be a good thing, particularly when we're living in, I don't know, quite a state of, well, in a lot of the world, quite a state of fear, or at least society wants us to be in a state of fear, state of separation, a lot of destruction going on. And, sometimes it can, maybe it seems, I don't know, I'm really curious to hear Seani, who I'm going to introduce in a second, opinion about this. Is it frivolous to be rolling around on the floor with another human being? Is it frivolous to be playing with pleasure? Or does that have a wider impact on us that maybe one might not understand if you're just talking about kink? So we're going to see where our conversation goes today. But I'm really, really excited and curious to introduce Mr. Shawnee Love, who is, hi, Shawnee,
Hi.
who is a, well, conscious kink space holder. I did say scallywag before. I think I'm going to just bring that in right now. A little bit of a trickster, maybe. You can totally negate these. Oh, okay. A little bit of beardiness going on. Professional, for sure. Facilitator, teacher. Shawnee teaches all over the world for quite a while now. Maybe we'll tap into that a little bit more and hear more about that. When I first came across Shawnee's work and actually did some work in introduction to Conscious Kink Weekend, I think about 2 years ago now in Manchester. And then I've done a couple of things since. Most recently, and I am still bathing in the deliciousness of literally like yesterday and the day before. So this interview is coming right off the bat of another amazing workshop in Manchester, which we may touch upon again in this conversation. So I am going to hand this over. If you want to say hi, Shawnee. So yeah, introduce yourselves a little bit more. How are you doing?
Oh, thanks so much, Heidi, for welcoming me on your show, your program. Yeah, so my name is Shawnee. I'm in London right now, and I've just come back from Manchester, where I have been teaching this class weekend, and I'm still feeling the enormity of it.
Yeah.
When a room full of people take courage and turn up to express themselves and hold each other and drop in, and when they feel safe to sort of open up and yeah, that wildness. I'm still feeling a lot of that buzz inside me. Haven't completely landed yet. And this is part of my path, my journey is a lot of travel around the world, bringing different workshops to different communities and different places. So this weekend I've just been in Manchester, and the weekend before Berlin, and the weekend before Amsterdam, and coming up there's a few things as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really love this combination of kink, black BDSM, meets conscious sexuality and ritual, erotic ritual, and neo tantra, and sort of whole realm that all these different threads come together for empowerment and self exploration and fun. Yeah, just sort of self knowing, self empowerment through sexuality and shadow work. That's a short version. Yeah.
I like it. And I love the way you say fun in there as well, because I think play is one of the most underrated aspects of being a human, and particularly as we become an adult as well. I think play can really get neglected as if, oh no, you just do that when you're young, or, maybe on a Saturday night after you've worked so hard all week, and then play becomes kind of let's get absolutely utterly wasted and maybe not even remember the night. I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? Let's be honest. I'm not judging anyone, but there is something about the work that you do that there's a real invitation and encouragement to play. And I find that such a beautiful quality to invite in, and also to start to embody and to live by more and more. Because not, I don't know how it's been over the time you've been teaching. Like, are people always receptive to the invitation to play, or do you ever get people that kind of really struggle with that or resistant to that at all?
There's often people that are resistant to play. They're just like, oh, what's going on here is a serious business. Kink is very serious. Tantra is very serious. I'm here for personal development, but I think play and pleasure, these are sort of gateways to understanding the self and to just sort of opening up and releasing parts of ourselves that just want to come out. And these are parts of ourselves that will always be around. Pleasure in itself is fundamentally healing,
Yeah.
because especially if it's done in a conscious way. Pleasure in itself can be very healing and joyous and pleasurable. So never stop playing, never stop playing. And the kink scene, playing kink scene is often referred to as play. Let's have a play date. Let's play together. Yeah, so play is the fun of life.
Oh yeah, of course it is, isn't it? Yeah, play dates and play spaces. It's just like occurring to me now. Of course, it's
Yeah,
playgrounds. Playground.
yeah.
It's slightly different, isn't it? You go on the swings. There is swinging in the playground.
Swing in and eyes and let's play. Let's have fun and let's
Yeah.
through the fun and the play. When we're playing, some of the guards come down, some of the inner centers come down. So when we're playing, we're not centering ourselves, like quite literally. And that's when we can sort of have the most profound experiences because the senses aren't there and we're free in those spaces.
Mm. Um, for those people that I'm aware actually that there might be people watching this that maybe have heard of kink or BDSM or have an idea of what that is. Um, can you just explain a little bit about what is conscious kink? Um, I know and I'm just asking you this, but I know for myself, one of the things that I really like about your spaces and that I really appreciate and I'm really interested in more is how much of the energetic work you bring in, which that would be probably the last thing that you would think about being in a kink space. And yet it's so profound. I mean, I just want to say for people that are like, okay. I mean, if you're here, you've signed up, you're listening to my stuff, you're on my channel, you know the kind of realm that I like to play out in. So that's not unfamiliar to you. But one of the things that I really loved this week, and lots of things that I really enjoyed, there was an exercise that we were um, rubbing. I've done stuff like that before where you rub your hands and you can feel, I mean, you can do that at home. If you're watching this at home, you can rub your hands for quite a while and then you'll feel your own energy. Creates this little ball. It's quite fun to play with that. And maybe you did that even like at school or something. I think I remember doing that a long time ago when you play with it. But we did a practice with a partner where, my God, I thought it was so profound where you weren't touching each other at all. People could say, oh, it's, you got to get naked, you've got to touch people. And I don't know if I even want anyone to touch my elbow, never mind anything else. And yet here was a practice that I found really erotic and really so much charge where someone's just holding you in that energy ball that you've kind of created. And these are kind of things that I think a lot of people don't realize when they hear kink. Maybe they're interested, or, I can imagine there's all sorts of reasons why people turn towards kink. But if you don't know, stuff like that, I think is what a beautiful way to have an experience of your own aliveness and energy and be held and witnessed safely and not even have to be touched by anybody. I don't know. The energy work that you bring, I think, is really, really cool. I don't know if that's a general thing or if that's something that you've mashed together and brought in and makes it conscious. What's conscious kink, Shawnee?
Well, that's quite a big question. I'll start with the actual question at the end. Yeah, conscious kink is an attempt to bring more consciousness to our sexuality, especially our shadow sexuality, and bring more consciousness to it means more awareness of the small things that happen during play, during sexuality, bringing more awareness of little changes in our minds and our bodies and our eros and our energy levels as we're playing. So just becoming much more aware of it, but also set of tools to bring sexuality and kink to consciousness so we can learn to explore our inner world quite consciously. So we're bringing kink into consciousness and also consciousness into kink. And by that, we're sort of growing and learning more about ourselves and just becoming more whole by doing so and just expanding our realm of possibilities and knowing who we are. There's so many aspects to myself and to yourself that you don't know and never had the chance to explore or didn't even know was possible. But by bringing these sort of rituals and plays into your sexuality, into your scenes, you just can learn so much more about yourself. And I think later you want to talk about power and just things like playing with power dynamics in a really conscious way. It brings awareness to when they're happening unconsciously. Yeah. And you talk about energy, and energy is a big part of that. And
Yeah.
in some aspects, energy is part of that. For some groups are more open to it than others, and if a group's not open to it, you don't need to have that there as part of the play. You can play in a very tangible, carnal way without the energy play. But I love both. So
Yeah.
some groups that are more open to it, and this group this weekend was very open to it, and it just makes it more yeah, they were very open to it, so we went very far with it. Some groups are much less open to it, and then that's what becomes less important. But that doesn't detract from the power of the workshop or the events.
Where's that come from,
Yeah.
the energy work then? Is that stuff that you've been involved in alongside that you brought in to combine with kink work?
So it comes from many different sources. But before I was playing with King, I was doing Tai Chi and Qigong and yoga,
Oh, okay.
and I was going to some different. I was wanting to learn a lot about myself, so I was going to a lot of rituals. Went to some of these pagan rituals and witchcraft rituals just to learn how this works and just learning how energy flows was part of it, and then playing with it, bringing that into kink, learning how kink can help move energy through the body and release blocks, and how we can hold space with each other. One teacher in particular, Raven Kildara, I don't know if you can know out of 5 people, but one of my teachers from 15 years ago, he wrote a book called Dark Moon Rising.
Mm.
He taught me how to do energy bubbles, which is wrapping someone up in energy. So when you're holding someone in energy, they don't need to hold themselves. And I think when someone doesn't need to hold themselves, they can have the most profound experiences. And so that's part of my work. Yeah.
Wow, that's it's making me think about, because yeah, I want to kind of stay around the topic of power. I mean, I just really felt my whole body when you said, "Oh, people don't have to hold themselves." Just go like that as as an independent woman, as somebody who's doing a lot of stuff, juggling loads of things. I think in our society, there are quite a lot. I call it the false independent woman syndrome. I think there's a lot of us out there that are so used to being really tough, holding everything, kind of maybe running our own businesses. And that sense of allowing ourselves to be held or to really let go and surrender into that. I mean, the whole thing around being held and holding is it's a massive topic, isn't it? I think we've all got different nuances, different kind of woundings around that and strengths around that as well. But I'd like to talk about that, how that, I don't know, how that is to have that space where someone can go and drop that power that maybe they're holding or representing or coming with in their day to day life and actually let somebody else be not responsible, is it? Because the conscious part of it is you've got to be responsible for yourself, but consciously letting yourself let go, I suppose, and surrender. How extraordinary that is.
Yeah. Letting yourself be held by someone, even temporarily, means some part of you can ah, just take off your armor, take off your heavy load, and just put all that down. And someone's going to hold you emotionally and energetically and perhaps psychology for the duration of that scene or that ritual.
Yeah.
And that's just a very profound experience to have someone hold you in just the right way.
Yeah.
Um, there's a few parallels, some from psychology, like good therapists will hold you well,
Yeah.
and in big Sam, a good dom will hold you well, and that can be through their presence, but also through ropes and cages and chains that have their own form of holding. When you're chained up or tied up in just the right way, you've got nothing to do but surrender. And when you surrender and you're being held, that just allows such a deep space of freedom. And it's a big part of my work, my private work, especially. Yeah.
Yeah. There's something about trust as well that comes into all of this, isn't there? You said about presence. I think they kind of go together. Like, I know I couldn't trust somebody who wasn't present. It's almost like your
Hmm.
body knows, isn't it? Not to completely let go because it's not safe.
Yes, if your body knows not to let go, then don't let go. But also, everyone knows what it feels like to be emotionally dropped. You know what it feels like when someone's dropping you. If I say, "How are you?" and I don't wait for the answer, then you know how that's got a stingy feeling, like a cringy feeling. And
Mm.
it's, yeah, we don't want this. We want someone who's asking how we are and our well-being and holding us for the whole duration of until we're ready to hold ourselves again at the end of the scene or the play or the session, whatever we're doing. Yeah, so
Yeah.
holding each other is super important.
Yeah, it so is, isn't it? And I think ritual, that's kind of an ultimate holding space, isn't it? I love rituals. And I think it's something that we forget so much in our society. And I think when we do a ritual, what even it could be really simple, couldn't it? Like lighting a candle or like having, like there was at the weekend, like having an altar space, which, you can just make that yourself in your own home. Just have a little area. You can put a plant there, you can put a photograph or something beautiful or a leaf or whatever you want and have that as a sense that you'll go to that space and it drops you into a moment of presence. That's what I think ritual does, is it allows you to kind
Yeah.
of pause time in a way and drop you into a space that's more, I don't know, has more depth to it, has more presence to it, has more holiness in a sense, this connection to sacred. It's not the day-to-day bullshit that's just going on
Yeah.
that whole time as well. Mm,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree fully. Even taking a few moments out of the day and the structure and the hustle and the bustle, whatever you're doing, and just like having a rest and putting yourself down and doing that with an altar in front of you and acknowledging some mythology or mythos or your ancestors, or as you say, leap and nature, and just connecting with that, just brings a sacredness to your own life, and it's deeply nourishing. But
yeah,
look weird before you do it, but once you do it, there's a deep nourishment then, which is, yeah, really yummy, healthy.
absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah, and does allow us to just take a moment, doesn't it? Just go, okay, just checking in. I'm just checking in with how I am. So, because how many of us forget ourselves or have abandoned ourselves? And that's another thing I think about this. The kink work is that it's a practice of coming home, of embodiment. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
which I know I feel so refreshed just from having this weekend of having that space to be in the body, because that's again is not, and I think that's where power lies, is in the body. I'd be curious to know what you think about that.
Power, yeah, power is, there's so many different aspects to power. There's
Mm,
power that we share together to create something. There's power we can have over each other. It can be consensual, it can be temporary, or it can be long term. There's the power to get something done in your life, which
mm,
is through the resources we have internally and externally. Starhawk's book, Starhawk's book, Truth or Dare, has talks a lot about power, and I think it's quite an interesting read. And yeah, I like to do that book. But
mm.
power, the power to do something, the power inside myself, or the power over you that you give me, or the power the government has, or the banks have. These are all different aspects of power.
Yeah.
And the power to like resist the messages that are coming in the world and just to sort of stand in that fullness and autonomy and love, self-love and self-protection. These are all kinds of different kinds of power. Yeah.
Owning one's
Important aspect.
desire is a big part of it, isn't it? I think in this world.
Owning, yeah, if I feel desire, owning it,
Yeah.
which is because owning it, it's like I could, if I've got desire and I could succumb to it, which means sometimes giving up, or I could push it down, which means I'm, becoming a weaker individual. But something about allowing it, and feeling it, and not letting it take over me. That's real power, is to feel that desire or that impulse and just be really present with it, and not necessarily writing it, but just owning it. That's real power. That's self mastery.
Yeah. And it's such that I think is what personally for me, kind of looking a bit at the kind of politics, I think the way that everything is in the media and so on is so much about us, well, being disempowered. If we're disempowered, we know, I mean, we all of us know what it's like to feel disempowered and not from, like you say, a healthy place of actually, I'm going to give my power to somebody else because I want to experience what that is. The amount of times we're walking around, or the amount of us that are walking around having had our power well, we've given our power away without realizing it. And that's a huge thing. Like we do that in so many areas of our life. And I think a big part of, I don't know, coming home to oneself or waking up is that realization of what have I done with my power? This is one of the most massive resources that I have. And how am I using my power? Who is controlling my power? Yeah. Am I giving it away? Am I letting it be taken? And I love how in the workshops, this is what we start to play with, isn't it? A lot more, but in this conscious way. And then going, actually, I think I get really turned on by not having any power. That actually, that's really exciting, isn't it? So it's not about, oh, no, I'm fixing all of this and I'm never going to give my power away ever again because I feel like, actually going, maybe I like giving my power away. And that's empowering, isn't it?
Yeah, if it's done in a conscious way to know the self and then act upon it in a really good way, that can be really empowering to do that and really nourishing as well.
Yeah.
There's a bigger conversation around that, and politics is we talk about kink and BDSM and eros, and we give our power away because we have to suppress our sexuality,
Yeah.
and society has forced most of us to suppress our sexual impulses and urges. And in some ways, it's healthy because we have to be sociable animals. But in other ways, like the church says you can't do this, or a government says you can't do this, and we're denying our nature, our consensual impulses, then we're very easily controlled. But
Very easily controlled, and also it comes out, doesn't it? It's like when you've got a hole in your toothpaste or something, you're squeezing it, and it will comes out all that kind of, like kind of that weird kind of shape. It comes out in abuse allegations and situations, or I don't know. I used to be a yogi for like 20 odd years. That was my practice. That's what I did. And then all these, every day there was like a new yoga teacher that there was new allegations coming out about them, or this person's suddenly been exposed as this, and it actually got to be a bit of a got to a point of it almost being a bit of a really kind of a bit of a sick joke of like, hold on, there are these people that holding this particular power. So responsibility is a big part of having power. Um, who are kind of negating the responsibility of that, or they're denying the fact that they've got all these sexual desires. Rather than just admitting it and going, like, I have this, I'm just going to own it. And then I'm not going to fling it out onto anybody else. I'm owning this. I'm human. This is going on. I'm not perfect. Because that's what happens otherwise, isn't it? It all kind of leaks out in all these really unhealthy, really destructive ways.
yeah, a yogi. I'm not a yogi exactly in this context, but
Mm.
a yogi pretending to not have sexual impulses is going to come out in leaky and unhealthy ways. But someone who owns their sexuality and can communicate it and can navigate consent and boundaries and is aware of power dynamics in context,
Yeah.
has a much healthier sex life, much less likely to be accused or much less likely to accidentally cross someone's boundaries.
Yeah.
Because I think what you're touching on is, um, yeah, people doing sexual things with each other, and because of the power dynamic, people unconsciously project things onto each other. This yogi, the yogi, and he can heal me and stuff like this, which is he or she, yeah, which is can be quite challenging in the world. And how to minimize that is by having good communication around it as much as possible.
Yeah. I think that's about power anyway. Like how I work a lot with the stuff that I do with the writing is I love doing writing workshops about taboo, all the shameful parts. And, so I suppose in a similar way, working in a similar way to you, but working more from taking these as archetypes and parts and playing them out that way. Obviously, your work is the kind of working with the sexual aspect of that and embodying that and bringing it out. But there's something so liberating about being able to go, I'm really jealous, for instance, that came up for me this weekend. I'm full of jealousy. I'm going to be jealous. I'm seething. I'm over here, kind of like seething, hissing poison. Like I am just full of jealousy and actually owning it rather than going, no, I'm fine. All's fine. That whole thing isn't, I'm fine. And then your whole body is telling a completely different story because your jaw's like that. This is part, like most of the population really walk down the street. I'm fine. Actually, I'm really fucking pissed off or I'm got this going on. It's like,
Yeah, I think if people are masking that, they're fine. If they look fine and they say they're fine, but some part of them is masking to themselves and the community, and they're not fine, and they've got some pains and traumas inside them because of what they're witnessing or seeing. I think that's really gold to bring out and talk at. And I think you did that this weekend by, instead of saying, yeah, no worries, and pretending or masking, just bringing it out, roaring me, making me feel the emotions and just feeling that and just feeling the body and allowing yourself to feel. Oh, that's wild and beautiful because and it's just so natural. And everyone feels naturally, everyone feels jealousy or lust or sadness or anger and just allowing it. I mean, that's wholesome because we're in tune with the body and we're not suppressing ourselves.
A
I
lot of
always
these
almost
places
feel
are
really,
very erotic, aren't they? A lot of these places are really sexy as well, because it's just energy that we're holding back. And I think that energy is what our is our power. So if we're holding back on something, because I can't be seen like this, I think we're actually squishing down more of our power. And then when we release that just by owning something, I'm not a proponent of fixing necessarily, and there's different levels to this, but I think a lot of our stuff isn't about fixing. It's about the ownership, about the responsibility of going, this is something in me. I'm not going to throw it out into the world. Suddenly the whole body just does this more, doesn't it? And then there's more space, more energy to move through, more of our aliveness, more of our pleasure. And we're just carrying ourselves, I call it like being on those big mirrored disco balls. Like maybe we show the nice little glass mirrors to people because we want people to see this. But at the back, there's all the kind of like, ugh, the pervert bits and the like the judgmental parts and the not nice and the cruel and we all have all of these aspects in it.
yeah, yeah, we do. As I was saying, well, we have all these aspects. We have anger and sadness and lust and jealousy, and owning them when we feel them rather than pushing them down just makes us feel, makes us more whole and self-aware. The more we know ourselves, the more powerful we are. Power or the ability to respond in each moment is
Yeah,
what defines the power. One good definition of power, our ability to act and respond, and
yeah.
yeah, that's power.
Choose. I think when you realize we have a choice rather than just somebody else telling us how to live our life or what we should be thinking. And it's a huge thing stepping into our power. I don't think it's comfortable necessarily, always. I don't think it's easy always as well. I think sometimes then there's choices to be made that maybe means that we might get thrown out of our family that we felt like we fitted in as opposed to belong to, because that is a different kind of feeling, I think. Um, I'm really curious about your own relationship to power in your life as like has doing conscious kink work changed that for you? Have you always had a healthy sense of relationship to your own power? Be curious to know a bit about that.
Yeah, no, in general terms, have not always had a healthy relationship with power. It's like an ongoing process and regular ongoing process and practice to tune into power and to understand how external forces do affect me, how jealousy affects me, how other people's energy affects me, how the government and the banks and the flow of money affects me.
Yeah.
And that affects my levels of power to act in each moment. So there's many factors of power, but the more aware I am of what's going on inside my own body, as you say, the more choices I have
Yeah.
to respond in a healthy, integrated way, the less impulsive my response is. And that's like, it's real power. Mm. And to tie that back to what we were talking about earlier, to consciously play with power dynamics in kink scenes.
Hmm.
Yeah, where one person gives their power away in a really conscious way, like to feel your power, give it away and to serve someone and to be told what to do and someone has power over you. To practice that in a kink scene or a BDSM scene allows us to get an experience of what it feels like to have less power
Mm.
and just to know what that feels like in the body. And that means when it happens in the outside world, we're much more conscious of it. And that just gives us much more choice and freedom to act. And some people love that role of not having power.
Mm.
Like there's many high powered business professionals that go on to dominatrices and dominant professional dominance because they just hold their power for a little while and they've got to,
All those
ah,
politicians being named in the Daily Mail back in the 90s or something. What about the role of how kink and how your work impacts somebody then going out into their life? Have you kind of heard that from people that you've worked with or like the clients that you have? What kind of things does that change for people perhaps in their lives after either working with you privately, because you work with private clients as well as running workshops, don't you? Is there anything particular that kind of strikes you from people that you've worked with that you see?
Sure. For the private work, a lot of people have never had really good sexual experiences or kink experiences. For example, a lot of people have never had basic communication. A lot of people have never had the question, "What do you enjoy?"
Yeah.
So just having that question, that conversation with every client, one-on-one client, is a
Yeah.
game changer for most of them. So if I'm touching someone's pussy, most people have never asked, "How do you want your pussy touched? Fast or slow, or this way instead of this way?" And most people have never asked. And people need to practice these questions. So just having a session means you're getting asked these questions, and people go, "Whoa, I didn't know I could have this opinion. I didn't know there was options."
Yeah.
So this private session is a game changer in terms of sexuality. People have to say in private sessions, people have to learn how to say stop when it gets to enough. And then people have never had that option before as well. Like people never have the option to say stop, or that's enough sex, or that's not spanking, or
Yeah.
that's too hard or too deep. And so bringing that into the session is a game changer for many people as well.
Yeah.
So even very directly, it's a game changer for people's lives because they're just having new programs put in and old programs taken out, and having more breath. Taking a breath at the start rather than just rushing penetration or something is a game changer.
Yeah.
But there are also bigger ramifications in terms of understanding power dynamics and understanding our place in the world, and just seeing the oppression that's everywhere. And I think the more sexually, the more eros we explore, the more sexually liberated we are, and just the more liberated in general we are, because sex and power and freedom and these things are massively connected.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's such societies and cultures that oppress our sexuality, then I think some just do suppress our freedoms and force us into a box and force us to be more robotic. But when we can explore this for ourselves, we're much less robotic and much more free. That's why my motto is conscious kink saves the world. The more we are conscious about our sex and our kinks, the more free we are. And the more free we are, the less some governments can control us and churches can control us. And the less we're controllable, the more free we are. And thus the more free the world is.
Yay. Anything like that, which is about, these kind of practices or, um, I suppose more, and I don't want to say the word alternative because hopefully they become less alternative and more actually something that people can access a lot more. Um, I was going to say something, around this as well. There's something about, yeah, there's an honesty, isn't it? There's something about when we're able to kind of go, I'm into this, I like this is my desires, this is my limits, this is where my boundaries are, this is what I'm okay with, this is what I'm not. What it really strikes me as, and I think this is a really powerful part of power and freedom, is we're so honest. Like, there's no lie. I mean, it's a work in progress. Of course, it's a work in progress, and maybe we're doing this kind of the rest of our lives. But it really strikes me that the more that we allow these places to be, the light to be shone on, if you like, in that way, it's it's almost like we're becoming more and more invincible. Like I had an experience of feeling like the Hulk or a superhero at the weekend. I'll tell you about that maybe another time. Of this sense of like when we're really expanding with our energy, it just made me think of the Hulk when you get, not going green. I didn't go green. I will rip. Did I rip my clothing? Very possibly, actually. But, expanding and feeling and much more. He's a beast, the Hulk, and the power that he has and the energy. And I've got a real thing about superheroes. I think it is a kink of mine. It is absolutely actually a kink of mine, superheroes. I had an experience at Burning Man with Batman. I'm just going to leave that one there, which was that ticked a box. Absolutely. Um, but it's like no one can shame it. We can't be shamed or we can't be, shrink down. The more that we're holding and owning all of these different aspects of ourselves, we become almost invincible. That I think is that true power. No one can kind of break us down in a way because we're not hiding any aspects of ourselves. We don't have that like weak spots, you know? who are becoming, is your work about becoming invincible superheroes then, possibly?
Da-da.
Can we get
Yeah,
some capes? Pink capes.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's a few steps involved. One is exploring, one is understanding ourselves and then taking ownership of ourselves. And
Yeah.
the more we know ourselves, the more powerful we are, the less outside influences can control us or
Yeah.
manipulate us or bully us. And that's in sexuality as well. The more we know our own sex, the more someone can coerce us to do something. And yeah, the more we know ourselves, the more the governments can force us to do something. Yeah, or yeah, the power and the freedom is comes from the self knowledge and the ability to be free each moment.
Yeah. And
Mm.
same in creativity, so I work with kind of freeing the voice in that way of, owning who you are. It's then someone
Mm.
can't go, you're a no, 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 just like that, obviously. And you go, oh no,
Mm.
I've been found out. Oh, I'll just kind of go over here and hide and not come out and be visible again and feel full of shame and be disappointed and have all this guilt and fear and all this. It's like, yeah, I am.
Mm.
And, it's like it takes the drama or the charge away, actually. That's all power. Um, so I want to ask you a couple last questions, actually. And this is part of the pleasure alchemy kind of work. And I'm asking everybody this. So one of the practices I'm inviting people to do is to go somewhere weekly, somewhere that turns you on. Now that might be the tomato section of a Spanish supermarket. Have you ever been to a tomato section in a Spanish supermarket? It is smell, the different shapes, the colors. Could be a bookstore. It could be lingerie shopping. Could be going to your favorite kind of park or something. So, what would be a place that you could take yourself out on a turn on date that you can share with us?
Oh, that's a good question. Goodness me. Depends where I am in the world. I'm traveling the world a lot. But I do live in Camden in London, and probably the Rose Garden at Regent Park is the first thing that comes to my mind because I go for a walk there. It's a 20-minute walk from my house, and I'll go there, walk among the rose gardens, have a smell, and yeah, I think it's one place. There's
Mm.
nooks and crannies in there where I can have a little private meditation, and I love it there a lot. And all the different
Mm.
roads, species of roses, all different colors, and they all come at different times from the spring. I mean, throughout the year, they're all different times and different ones in bloom. So
Mm.
that's the. I do love the ocean. I grew up by the ocean in Sydney.
Yeah.
So I can be by the ocean and get in the sea and feel salty water on my body. That's
Mm.
ah, another thing. I love the dungeon I work in, the Peacock Parlor in Camden. I work there doing
Mm.
one-on-one sessions. And it's like it's called a dungeon, but it's also like a temple.
Mm.
And it's called a Peacock Parlor and like it's available for private hire. And yeah, I love the vibe in there. So there's a few different places that I
Nice.
can tune into to find that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice thing to do, isn't it? Because you can go through your week. I mean, probably not in your line of work, to be perfectly honest, but you can go through your weeks and feel a bit blur, kind of. And actually, just taking yourself to one of these places and to really use your senses once you're there. So it's not just going; it's actually okay. And turn my phone off, or maybe not even take my phone with. Literally smell the roses, or listen to the sound of the water, or put your feet in and feel the temperature and, the feet against the ground and what you can hear and smell. And there's something so yummy about inviting all of your senses to experience because we have that in every single moment, don't we? But it's not, yeah, to walk around. Wouldn't it be amazing to walk around like that the whole time? Just all of our senses so open and receptive. We'd just be just walking around orgasmic probably the whole time. And yeah, yeah, easy to
Mhm.
forget, I think. Easy to-
And good to remember.
Good to remember. Yeah. So I hope you get a visit to your rose garden while you're in Camden.
So I think I will. I think I will. Mm.
And if you can leave something for people that are listening, and it could be people that use this kind of work or they've never heard of this before, it's the first time, as in something that you would almost like gift to people to just maybe to begin connecting a bit more with their own power and what that means, maybe through a little bit from the line of your work. Do you have a suggestion or something you could leave people with, or a little
Uh,
or a little bit of wisdom?
Practice, maybe a practice, wisdom. Wisdom would be wisdom would be if some part of you is oppressing one of your sexual fantasies, just to bring that into your mind and just sit with it a bit more and just be instead of pushing it away. It doesn't mean you need to act on it, but just to bring it into consciousness and just imagine what it would feel like to explore it. And that could be power exchange or being tied up or being spanked or being dominated or something on the LGBT spectrum, just you got some fantasy you haven't explored. Just entertain the idea that that can be a game changer for someone to. If someone's got gay impulses, for example, and they really push them down, just allow them to have that thought inside themselves. I think just allowing that can be a step towards self-knowledge and a practice. Practice, maybe you can do it now. I don't know if you're shy, but
I'm shy, but that's okay. Shy's okay.
I'm gonna put one hand on. I can't see myself in the camera here, but I'm gonna put one hand on my heart, one hand on my genitals, and just sort of put my consciousness from my eyes backwards into my body. I can feel my heart and my genitals at the same time, and just take maybe 2 breaths with me. Yay. Feel something gentle like that brings me into my body really quickly. This is a short version, it's a much longer version, but this brings me into my body and especially out of my head. When you're being erotic or sexual with someone, you don't want to get lost in your head about what's going to work and what goes where, but come into your body and your sex is better, your juices flow more, your blood flows better. Yeah, and just in life, if you're not sure about what to do next, if you're indecision fatigue, which is all self-employed people get decision fatigue, just coming back into the heart and having that breath, helping the body, coming to the body, landing the body and letting your body decide and feel things. Yeah. How are those 2 things for you?
Lovely. Thank you. Really lovely. The breath, having one hand on my genitals and one hand on my heart, it just feels really nice. And just to feel the aliveness as well, where my hand is on my genitals is really like, oh, yeah, okay. And it brings my attention all the way down. It just made me sigh. Like, oh, yeah, okay. Back to the earth again. And it feels nice as well. Not, that's really lovely. That's a bit of an extra bit of pleasure. And then the fantasy things, I think this is so interesting as well. This, I don't know if you've read the Gillian Anderson book, Want, that came out at the end of last year. Have you heard about it though?
Tell me.
Yeah, so she's, I think from her role in the show Sex Education, because she was a sex therapist, I think, in that role. And she got really into it. She was really interested. She played that for quite a few years. And she's an extraordinary woman anyway. She invited women, and I think people identifying as women, to send in their fantasy stories to make into a book. Like, I think it's 1981 and 1979, there was a book, like the first of these for women, Nancy Friday's The Secret Garden, which I remember reading and being like, wow, kind of blown away, because I think a big part of holding shame around our sexuality. So I love the thought that you brought fantasy in, because such a huge part is the fact that I always say we're all perverts, okay, but we probably don't really admit it. And we have all this stuff going on, all of these things that we're turned on by, and all of these fantasies that we'd never tell a single person. And I remember reading My Secret Garden and being like, oh my God, this is okay. Or this is actually in the top 3 women's fantasies. I'm not on my own about that. Because even though as women, we talk about all sorts of stuff, actually talking about sex or fantasy, we can talk about shiz sex maybe as women, I'm talking about generally, but talking about fantasies and that kind of stuff doesn't really happen in women's friendships. Not really, because there'd be that kind of, kind of judgment there. I think that, like money and sexual fantasies should be on every women's group's kind of top agendas, I think. And then, so this book by Gillian Anderson, which I read some of this at the beginning of the year, is a kind of more updated version of that. But it's amazing how many of those are still the same themes that run through. A lot of them about being taken, for women, the fantasy of rape and being taken or kidnapped is really huge. Submissions, gay fantasies, maybe all sorts of stuff that you'd be like, no, 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 I can't tell people about this. And again, listening to, because I listened to an audiobook, the Gillian Anderson book, which I really recommend actually, if you're interested, those of you listening, because there's different women's voices telling the stories. It's actually really nice. You feel like you're listening to different women sharing. That's really important. We don't understand what turns us on. People have done lots of theories around this, haven't they? And lots of ideas and psychology, and there's all sorts of, kind of reasons why. But does it matter? So what? As long as it's not harming anybody, we're not harming ourselves, or we're, quite happy with harming ourselves and we can take responsibility for that and so on. Yeah. Free the fantasies.
Yeah, free your fantasies, explore your inner world, set yourself free.
Yeah. And take your power back by doing this is how you take your power back. Enjoy yourselves and notice where the shame comes up. If it's an old patterning of shame, it's okay. As a nervous system practice, when that comes up, you can just say to yourself, hello, old shame. I feel you. I thank you. You're here to keep me safe. And I don't need you to be here right now. But thank you. You acknowledge and hold these places. They're just little. They're just old little parts of us that just need a little bit of love. It's okay to be there, but it's not needed right in this moment. And that I've used that practice quite a lot. And I find that really, really helpful. Just a simple acknowledgement. Shame is here. That's okay. Hello, old friend. And I'm just going to put you down over here so I can engage with what it is in front of me. Where can people find out more about you? Are you on socials? Do you have a website?
Yeah, I'm on all the socials. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and FetLife. I've got a TikTok, which I don't really use enough, but I dip at it sometimes. And it's my name, Seani Love, Seani, spelled Love. You should be able to find me on most of those socials. I do have a website as well, SeaniLove.com.
Yep.
And that's for meeting me online. And so you can see some of my writings and posts and memes. I create memes. I don't know why, but I just make a lot of memes.
Jeez, I didn't know about your memes. You're just a
Yeah,
man
yeah,
of many talents, aren't you? Useful talents.
yeah.
Yeah.
On my Facebook, I've got a folder full of memes, which sex positive memes. So you're gonna learn a few things about the way I think about sex positivity. I often put it in meme form because then it's a bite-sized chunk.
That's actually a really good idea. Yeah. Nice. And the information and the handles and website, all of that information, wherever you're watching or listening to this, their information will be below somewhere. So you can catch that. And I highly recommend going to one of Seani's workshops. Sounds like there's no excuse wherever you are in the world. He'll be there.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
the next few weeks, I'm going to be in London and Portland and Austin and New York
Wow.
and Melbourne and Canberra and Sydney and Berlin and Manchester again in February. I'll see you there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, and keep saving the world with the work that you're doing.
Thanks, Heidi. Thanks so
Bye.
much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.